This is the Living in Havering podcast.
Welcome to the Living in Havering podcast. I'm Ben Vaughan. This is our monthly deep dive into life in Havering, where we meet the people that make the borough a great place to live. Coming up, we'll be talking Havering parks and green spaces as we welcome guests from the council's award-winning parks team. And we'll be putting your questions to the leader of the council, Cllr Keith Prince, in our monthly Leaders Question Time. But first, with September just around the corner, thousands of children across Havering are getting ready to start school for the first time. It can be an exciting time, but sometimes an anxious time for both youngsters and their parents. Living's Yvonne Lamoth has been speaking to a local head teacher and community nurses about how families can help children make a positive start.
This is the Living in Havering podcast.
Starting school is a major milestone in every child's life, and with the summer holidays flying by, many parents are preparing to hand their little ones over to school for the first time. I spoke to Hayley McClenaghan, the Executive Head Teacher for the Growing Together Foundation of Crowlands Primary School in Romford and Newton's Primary School in Rainham, about how parents can best help their children to be ready to transition into school life. Can you tell me what the importance is of being ready for school this September?
I think it's so important for our children coming into school to be ready. They are going to be faced with meeting 30 new friends, and all of our children are going to come in with different abilities and skills that they already have. And it's really important that parents take the time to prepare them for this big step. It's a huge milestone, starting reception.
Right, so what kind of things can they be expected to be considering at this stage?
So I think over the holidays, it's about ensuring children are more independent, that they are emotionally ready, and maybe picking up those skills that actually they're going to continue to develop in our reception classrooms. So children that have been at nursery, I'm sure our nursery providers are really focusing on getting them ready and prepared for school. And those that haven't been to a nursery setting or another group setting, it's really important to work on the social skills of those children. You know, learning how to share, learning how to express their wishes and feelings, being able to verbalise what they need is really important, and not having an adult take over as soon as they might find something a bit tricky. And, you know we have children coming in that may not speak English as a first language. They may have some special needs. We are not expecting all of our children to arrive all at the same point. But there are things that parents can really work on over the holiday time to get their children ready and to get themselves ready.
So what are some of the challenges that schools like yourselves faced when their children start school for the first time?
So some of our children aren't as prepared as they need to be. For example, we don't expect any reception children to be arriving at school in nappies or pull-ups, unless obviously there's significant special educational needs or disabilities, where of course they will need that intimate care to continue at school. We also can find some difficulties with just the independence. So children aren't used to using a knife and fork, for example, to eat their school lunches. They can't cut up their lunches. Some of them really struggle with a brand new packed lunchbox that has got fiddly little pots to open, or how to open a snack. So just teaching them those things rather than doing it for them this summer, really instilling that self-independence.
Okay, so there's quite a lot of things that they'll probably need to start preparing for. Where do they start?
So I think in terms of their emotional well-being, think about, are they going to have those separation worries on day one? Or are they going to skip into school ready to meet 30 new friends, new adults that are going to take care of them and keep them safe? So, it is about making sure they understand kind of the time of the day. Most schools have kind of a phased entry into reception, starting with a smaller amount of time and building up. Making sure that you have a consistent morning routine, maybe embed those routines throughout the holidays, maybe encouraging their independence in getting up, using the toilet, brushing their own teeth, and beginning to clothe themselves and put their shoes on.
So what would you say are the takeaways for parents then?
So parents, this is going to be tougher for you than it is for your child on the first drop off. You are dropping your child off to lots of new friends and lots of adults that are going to take care of them with lots of fun activities to get through. Name any item that comes into school. There are going to be 30 identical uniforms. If it is a warm September, that's 30 jumpers or cardigans that have been discarded somewhere and your child may not remember where. Anything that comes in, put their name on it. Be a partner in your child's learning and development. We want to work with you. You know your child best. Share any relevant information that we need so that, we can meet your child's needs as well as you can. And also get to know the key staff at a school, understand who the school leaders are, the Senko if you need their support, designated safeguarding leads, and also our homeschool support workers. We are all here as a team to help you to settle your child into school and look at the online resources out there. There is a wealth of knowledge out there. And I wish you all luck over the holiday time. And we are delighted to welcome your children into our schools in September.
I also spoke to community nursery nurses Helen Tanner and Norma Griggs in Romford to find out what else parents should be aware of before school starts. Can you tell me what role you play as community nursery nurses?
So we've all got our own schools that we go into, and we do the NCMP, we cover continence, dental, healthy eating, NCMP, so that's the child measurement programme. So we go in from reception and we do year 6. So we do the height, the weight and hearing and vision of the reception children, and we do the height and the weight of year 6s, and it's to see their progress through the years.
We also do health promotion in schools, so we'll go into the schools to talk about healthy eating, fussy eating, dental, looking after their teeth, and we'll also talk to parents about bedwetting, fussy eating, healthy eating, what to put in a school packed lunch, things like that.
What are the main challenges you face when helping children get ready to start school?
So the main challenges are to make sure that they are toilet trained before they start school. So try and get them dry and in knickers or pants during the 6 weeks holiday. We've got nice weather now, so it's an ideal time to strip off and try and get that toilet training covered, because schools are busy places. They do have accidents in school, but schools have got spare clothes to change them in. It's not a problem. But if they've got 10 children in that class that rock up in nappies, it's a big problem for the school staff.
Visit a dentist in the 6 weeks running up to the child starting. Advised for them to go take them to the dentist to get their teeth checked.
And is that the reason for those tests? Is that to avoid them having time out of school, or just because it's necessary anyway?
Children are coming into school, and I think we were on a dental webinar, and Havering has got the highest rate, I think, for children having extractions under sedation. The main cause of that is having babies' bottles with juice in, where the juice stays in the mouth. So when we go into reception, as soon as we see the lower teeth all black, for a fact that's caused by a baby's bottle. I advise them to go to the dentist. It is hard to find an NHS dentist, but if you look on the NHS website, there's help there available to try and find an NHS dentist. And it's all free, they don't have to pay. And again, the earlier it's picked up, the better it is for the child.
Do you have any final tips for parents?
It's important, obviously, to get rid of dummies or comforters before the children start school.
Try and get your children used to walking over the 6 weeks holiday. A lot of children are still turning up to school in a buggy, which isn't ideal. They need to be able to walk a little distance, or parents give in and carry them, but try and get them to walk, because they'll be doing PE in school, and it's healthy. Setting them up for a healthy start if they can walk to school.
The Living in Havering podcast is just one way you can keep up to date with what's happening around your borough. Sign up for the Living in Havering email newsletter, the council's weekly publication, bringing you all of the latest news, events and important updates from across Havering. It's completely free and takes less than a minute to subscribe. Visit havering.gov.uk/e-news. That's havering.gov.uk/e-news and sign up today.
You're listening to the Living in Havering podcast. Now, Havering is widely known as London's greenest borough, with an incredible network of parks, open spaces and recreational areas enjoyed by thousands of residents every day. But behind those award-winning green spaces is a dedicated team working year-round to keep them looking their best. So in this episode, we're joined by James Rose, who leads Havering's Park Service, and Luke Davis from the grounds maintenance team. Hello to you both.
Hi there.
Hi, Ben.
Hello. Now, I'm sure you've heard this a lot, James, but I have to start by saying with a name like Rose, a surname like Rose, you were kind of born to work in parks, weren't you?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? And yeah, I've always had a passion for horticulture, landscaping, gardening. Probably got it from my grandfather, who was a keen gardener. Visited his garden a lot as a kid and went in his greenhouse, and yeah, got a real passion for everything sort of green. So Rose is quite an apt name.
Thank you. And Luke, you're fresh in from the park, I understand.
I am, yes. I've been busy this morning running around doing different jobs, but yep, I'm with you now.
Brilliant. Well, thanks to both of you so much for spending some time with us here on the Living in Havering podcast. So James, to start with, can you tell listeners a bit about Havering's Park Service? So you oversee the service and what role it plays across the borough.
So yeah, we do all the sort of strategic management side development of the parks and open spaces, and we work sort of hand in hand with our colleagues. Well, Luke's department, grounds maintenance. So my team deal with the strategy and management, and then you've got all the hard work is done, of course, by the grounds maintenance team. But yeah, we're behind all of the development. We do all of the improvements to the infrastructure, like the fencing, pathways, signage, furniture, landscaping schemes. My team come up with the landscaping schemes that the grounds maintenance then implement.
Okay, so it's the back office side, but overseeing everything, making sure it all works on the ground. And Luke, kind of the opposite end of the scale, if you like. So can you tell us a bit about your role and how long you've worked in the park service?
So I joined Havering Council in 2009 as part of the work-based horticulture apprenticeship scheme. I achieved my level 2 in horticulture, and then I was asked after completing this to then work aside with upcoming apprentices. So that's a little bit about my background. As far as everyday work, I always say every day is a school day on Havering Council and grounds maintenance, and we're always looking to improve and implement new working practices. We're experiencing demanding and changing times, especially like we experienced with COVID and obviously in the hot weather that we've got now. So like I say, in the spring we'll be preparing flower beds to improve our planting displays, maintaining our parks to green flag status and working towards Britain in Bloom. In the summer would be providing sports markings, fun days and activities in the parks, liaising with friends of parks to ensure that we're providing a good service and catering for public needs. Once winter comes, it gives us a chance to maintain our shrubs, trees. We ensure that paths and walkways are free from leaves. As the weather changes and the seasons change, we're working alongside with that all the time.
Okay, so broad range of roles and responsibilities there.
Definitely.
Now, quick pop quiz for you both. How many parks and open spaces do we have in Havering?
I thought we had 112, including the bowling greens, and I think we now have 108. Am I right, James?
We've actually got 89.
Oh, right,
officially.
Less than what I thought.
Officially. I mean, we always say public, no, we've got around 100 parks and open spaces, because it can be a little bit subjective, because you've got sites like Central Park in Harold Hill, where you've got a section of woodland that's sometimes classed as a separate area. And you've also got lots of other smaller areas that we wouldn't really classify, like verges that we wouldn't really classify as a park. But we manage around 89 spaces, as Luke says as well. We've got separate sites like bowling greens. We've got 26 allotment sites, and we've also got a huge network of rural public rights of way that my team manage as well.
It must be very varied, because no park or green space is the same, is it? And I presume they all bring different challenges with them. So can you give us an idea, both of you actually, of kind of the type of parks and green spaces that we have in Havering for residents to enjoy?
I think this is why Havering is I think quite unique, and we're so lucky because we've got such a variety. We've got places like Langton's Gardens, which is incredibly ornamental, very important in terms of the registration services that happen there. We've got large municipal high profile parks like Rayfield Park, Upminster Park, Central Park, Harold Wood Park. And then you've got huge natural spaces like Dagenham Park, Hornchurch Country Park, really nice natural wild spaces across the borough. So there's a variety, something that you don't tend to get in a lot of other boroughs, regardless of whether it's London or other shires.
Right, so on that point then, Luke, what makes Havering's parks so different and special from other boroughs? I know we're biased, but we can be.
I think it's the fact that we're so green in our area. When you come into a park in Havering, you know you've entered a park in Havering. We have a high standard of maintenance that we try to upkeep.
Just before we came on air, you were actually talking to me about the history of Havering parks and perhaps how that has shaped what the parks are today.
Yeah, so obviously we're following on from previous people who have been maintaining these parks for many, many years. And my understanding is that some of our sites were actually created and maintained by Humphrey Repton, who was a King Gardener back in the day. So he provided sort of like the basis of some of these areas, which we're now continuing to maintain at the moment.
So many residents use our parks every day, as we know, but many may not realise the scale of the park's service. So James, beyond the grass and the trees, what else is there that you look after?
So yeah, as I mentioned before, we're responsible for allotments as well. So we've got 26 allotment sites, which are actually managed on a day-to-day basis by private allotment societies. I mean, that requires work as well. Obviously, we have to be liaison with those groups and assist them with capital funding and improvements. And then, the public rights of way, which can be a minefield, the rural rights of way across countryside, making sure they're accessible 24/7, where you sometimes get some quite challenging landowners that don't necessarily like to have their land trampled across by walkers. So we have to liaise with landowners, and it can involve litigation, liaising with colleagues in legal to ensure that routes are kept open. We have a fantastic partnership with the Thames Chase Community Volunteers, who actually do a large amount of maintenance work on our rights of way network, which really helps us out, as well as other jobs and projects in parks. And then also we've got war memorials. So we've got several war memorials across the borough, which colleagues in street cleansing maintain. But we've had a few projects over the years where we've had to install additional war memorials. For example, Harold Wood in front of the library there. So yeah, it's not just about traditional parks and open spaces. There's other areas of green space that we manage as well.
The parks are not just maintained by council staff, are they? So James, can you tell us a little bit more about the role the Friends of Parks groups and other volunteers play, and how that ties in with what Luke and his team do?
It's a special service we have, and a relationship we've got with our Friends of Parks groups, and as you say, other voluntary groups like Thames Chase, Green Streets, the Wombles across the borough. They sort of really do supplement what the grounds maintenance team do. Being realistic, the guys can't be in the parks every minute of the day, every day of the week sometimes, to do things like litter picking. So it's really nice that we've got some passionate, proactive friends groups that we work with in partnership with, and they can carry out that work that really helps out. They're integral to fundraising. So when we submit external funding bids, we need to evidence that there's community support for that particular project, so we can call upon our local friends group for that site and say, look, tell the fundraiser how important this project is, which really helps bring that money in.
And I suppose it also helps to bring forward that idea that parks go beyond just the recreational space, but they actually create this sense of community, don't they?
Absolutely, because very much like the allotments, I always like to think the allotments, it's not just about people going and getting an allotment plot to grow vegetables. It's the social interaction and mental health benefits of those spaces as well, and same can be applied to friends groups. It's having the regular meetings. Some groups actually arrange some really good events, regular events every year.
Yeah, I mean, touching on events there, I mean, and more events taking place in our parks, which is great, because I mean, again, it opens them up for other uses as well. We are almost out of time, but Luke, I just wanted to say, because now you're obviously out there, as we've said, come rain or shine, so you must see some unusual things while working outdoors. Can you tell us a few of the strangest or funniest things you've seen or found in a park?
Some of that I wouldn't be able to broadcast, because we do see all sites, to be honest with you. So yeah, there are so many things that I couldn't talk about. Early in the morning we see wildlife and things happening in the park that not everybody would see. On a general daily basis, though, I mean, one of the things that stands out for me is basically seeing the children in the park. Some of them are either coming from the schools with their teachers or just playing. And when they see the crews and they're waving at our guys, I mean, that just really lifts our spirits, to be fair.
That's lovely.
Yeah, so I won't go too much into what we find in the parks or what really makes me laugh, but what I can say is working with the general public, especially seeing the children in the park, using the areas, is golden to me. So I'd say that's the most that I get out of my job.
So for me, it's very similar working in comms. No day is the same. And I remember a story back a year ago, Brenda the buzzard, who was terrorising both residents and children in a nearby school. Luke, you mentioned wildlife. I presume that you must see some pretty funny stories in relation to what animals get up to as well.
Yeah, well, we did have a story where at Bedford's Park, our staff were parking in the car park, and people couldn't understand why their window wipers were being removed. And it wasn't until we looked and studied this that we found that, the wildlife were taking the rubbers off their window wipers. So all the staff are driving home without any window wipers on their cars, all down to the wildlife.
What do they want them for, I wonder?
We're not sure. It could be nesting, or they think it's something they can eat, but they've all been sellotaped to the car windscreens now, so unless it rains, we don't undo them.
Right, so there you go. So if you're parking your car in Bedford's Park, maybe bring a roll of sellotape with you.
You may need it.
In your picnic bag. All right, great. Thank you very much. Lastly then, one thing residents can do that really helps keep parks looking their best. How can they help you?
Take your litter home with you.
I'd say litter, very important.
I mean, I saw, and it's an extreme example, but I saw a video. I won't name the site, that was sent through to me yesterday from our colleagues in enforcement. The amount of rubbish was sickening that was left in this particular space. But what annoys me is that we get criticised for that. So we get complaints about and people having negative comments towards the council. What are the council going to do about it? Well, we didn't put it there. No council officer, no member put that rubbish in that space. That was a resident, that was a visitor. So one message I would say is, if you brought something into a park, then put it in a bin, or if there's not a bin, then take it home with you. Don't just leave it and think that someone in the grounds maintenance team or the street cleansing team, it's their job to pick it up. It's not.
And in one sentence, what do Havering's parks mean to you?
People go to the parks for different reasons, and not everybody knows why that person's there. They may need quiet time, they may need to socialise, or they may just want to look at the wildlife. We all have different needs, and I think the parks are being used for those different needs. And to be able to cater for that and supply that for the general public, I think is golden. They're irreplaceable, and they're so important.
A space for everyone.
Yes, definitely.
I think Luke summed it up very nicely. I don't want to overthink it and spoil that sentiment, so probably best to leave it there.
We'll leave it there. A space for everyone. Thanks very much indeed to both of you for your time again. Luke, you better get back to the parts. I imagine the weeds will be having a party without you.
They will.
And James, thanks again for your time as well.
You're listening to the Living in Havering podcast.
You're listening to the Living in Havering podcast. It's now time for our monthly Leaders Question Time. So welcome back to the podcast, Havering Council Leader, Cllr Keith Prince.
Afternoon.
Hello, thanks for joining us again. Now, we'll come on to resident questions shortly, but it obviously takes a while after an election for the dust to settle. But you've now launched your first 100-day plan. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and why residents should be excited?
Well, it's really laying out what we're planning to do. At the end of the 100-day plan, we will actually produce and publish our future plans for the council. And we're being very ambitious. We're going to produce a plan for 2040. So how we see the council going forward for the next 15 years, really. And I think it's about time that the council did have a long-term plan. Historically, councils and administrations have limped from one year to the next, possibly having a plan that lasts 5 years, but I don't think that's good enough, and I think we really do need to have a good long look at how we want Havering to look in the future. And let's be honest, we're not going to be able to do everything straight away. There are lots of things that we've inherited that we need to deal with, but we are, in the shorter term, we're definitely going to give Romford a good scrub and clean up, and we're going to then move on to our other district centres like Hornchurch, Upminster, Harold Wood, Harold Hill, because we need to really start giving a bit of TLC to our borough. One of the other areas where we've been working on immediately is around HMOs, houses of multiple occupation. These seem to be springing up all over the place. They're not properly licensed, so we're clamping down on that. And of course, crime, we're pressing the to be more involved, and also we are given a firm commitment that we keep our Section 92 officers. They are the police officers that we pay for, although the Met are really being very unkind in this area because they're doubling the cost of them. We will commit to keeping them and to using them to great effect. In fact,
which will be good news for residents.
Well, exactly. Well, to give you an example, there was the recent robbery in Hornchurch Town Centre of Boots. It was our Section 92 officers that made the arrest and have brought those criminals to heel. So a lot of good things happening, much more to get on with. But the 100-day will it's public, in the public domain now. It lays out what we're doing and what we're planning to do, and then at the end of the 100 days we will publish our plans for 2040.
Excellent. And if you want to view the full 100-day plan, you can do so on the council's website, havering.gov.uk/100 days. Right, Keith, we've had lots of questions in from residents and listeners for your question time this month, so shall we dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right then, so first question comes from Ken. He says, you're rightly proud of our Green Flag Awards for our parks, obviously retained 16 again.
Indeed,
for another year, so great news.
Very, very proud of that.
But Havering Country Park has been singled out to have its gate permanently shut. He says the radar lock has been replaced with a combination lock, so now disabled people can't use the park. He's also told the fire brigade had to smash their way in the other day. So do you know what's happening down there?
Well, I do actually. I was down there a while ago and I noticed a lot of bike tracks around the park. So clearly, and evidence has now been produced, people have been going in there and actually riding unauthorised around the area, damaging the habitat and just generally acting in a very unsociable way. It is a shame because, yes, the radar key does allow access to people who have disability, give them greater access. But unfortunately, because we live in the modern day, those radar keys are very easily available on Amazon. So not only the people who should have them, the people who shouldn't have them as well. And we really just can't let people go around damaging and abusing our parks. So unfortunately, in this instance, we've had to lock it with a combination key. Of course, the fire brigade have their own magic keys, which is either a big sledgehammer or bolt cutters. They don't have time to mess around with combinations. And even if we were to put an FB key on, a fire brigade lock on there, again, all those keys are so easily available now that that in itself presents a problem. But there are alternatives that are available. There is another entrance, I believe, to the park. And also, of course, we have many, many parks that give access and have parking. If the person would like to send me an email, I'll happily send them all the details.
Brilliant. Thanks, Keith. And Ken, you heard it there. So send the leader an email if you have any further questions on that. We're staying with parks for our next question. It comes from Peter, who lives on the Country Park estate in Hornchurch. And he said when he moved there at the end of the 60s, there was a children's playground at Elliott's Playing Field, Hubbard's Chase. Apparently it gradually fell into disrepair and then was removed in the 1980s. So essentially he's asking, is there an option to bring it back?
Well, that's a very good point, actually. A park I used to use in the 60s and 70s, Haynes Park, used to have equipment in that as well, which seems to have disappeared. One of our main planks is giving access to our green belt, giving access to our green areas. And of course, to enhance that, we need to put in equipment to make sure that people are able to enjoy these areas. I think just having the green spaces without access, having green spaces with nothing there, is not what it's all about. It's all about being able to enjoy our green spaces. So absolutely, I appreciate the suggestion. I'll take that back and we'll have a look. I'll have a word with my cabinet member and see if we can't do something about that for you.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah, but absolutely. Parks and green space is very important for this new administration. Right, moving on, Keith. We're moving from parks to housing now. So this next question comes from Carol. She says, when are you going to sort out the leaseholders' prices? We pay for our service charges. It feels like we get charged for nothing, but the price keeps going up.
I mean, that is a very difficult one, because when people are able to buy their property, if they buy a property that has, say, a flat in a block of flats, unfortunately, the cost of maintaining the flats and indeed even maintaining the lifts. The law is very clear that the costs that are involved in doing the maintenance has to be divided up, and that the private holders have to pay a percentage and the correct percentage of any costs that are involved. So that is really a difficult one, and whilst yes, in some respects it is within our control, if £100,000 has to be spent and you're one of 10 residents, you have to pay 10% of that, and that is enshrined in law. I always do say to the officers that we need to be mindful that people who own their own properties don't have bottomless pockets, and that we should always be very considerate. But it is really an issue, and especially in blocks of flats, and especially blocks that have lifts, that there are a lot of on costs which do have to legally be passed on.
And of course, a lot of these charges out of the council's control.
Well, exactly. So, I will, again, emphasise to officers that it is really important that we keep costs down as much as we can, but we are tied by the law that means we must pass on the correct percentage of the costs to people who own their own properties.
Okay, thank you. If you do have concerns, Carol, then you can, of course, contact the home ownership team here at the council. Moving on, Keith, question 4 comes from Bill. Can you please tell me what an acceptable amount of time to wait is to reclaim my leasehold property from the clutches of Havering Council? He said, I think that over 2 years is extortionate.
I think that's a long time too, and that's not acceptable. So, Bill, why don't you email me directly and I'll get onto it. You can email me at keith.prince@havering.gov.uk. Give me the details. I will get onto the housing team and we'll see if we can't make this happen as quickly as we can. That is completely unacceptable.
Moving on then, question 5. This is a really straightforward one. Keith, get Callow's Corner fully open.
If it was in my power, I would do it tomorrow. I'm at the moment talking to TfL about trying to get more access. At the moment, if you're coming from London on the A12, once you get to the flyover, you have to go over the flyover. You can't turn left and go to the junction with the roundabout and then obviously access Straight Road and the A12. They haven't actually given me good reasons as to why they aren't allowing that access to happen. They've given me excuses which I'm not accepting. So literally today I've written to them again to say that is unacceptable. Been having meetings with TfL, with Essex and Suffolk Water, just to press the fact that we desperately need them to get this job finished. I've given them a hard deadline of mid-October. They are complaining about that, but I really do think that's reasonable. I do think that people expect the works to be completed by then.
This obviously isn't a council project, and it also goes beyond TfL because a lot of the problems are because of Essex and Suffolk Water. So do you have a message for residents in terms of how you're managing them as well?
Well, yeah, I'm regularly in touch with TfL about this. It is a TfL project, but absolutely they are in the hands of Essex and Suffolk Water. They've had an absolute nightmare trying to divert what is a very, very main water supply, because the current water supply is underneath the flyover, 80 years old, so it's likely to fail within the next 5 to 10 years. If it was to do that, that would just bring the whole lot to a halt again. So by laying the bypass, not only are they putting in new infrastructure, which means that in itself should have greater longevity, also if it does need any repairs or access, it won't involve having to possibly even take down the flyover in order to do those repairs.
I mean, it could almost be the subject for a Carry On film, couldn't it? Carry On Gallows.
Yeah, well, or not carry on, as the case may be. Yeah.
All right. I hope that answers your question, Andrew. Moving on to question 6. It comes from Leslie. Now, she's asking about road markings and when they will be painted. This is the road between Rainham and Tilbury Road.
Obviously there is always wear and tear, but let me see if I can get on to our contractors and see if we can do something about that. If you can give me the exact details of where it is, I'll get our guys to go and have a look and see if we can't get something done about that.
Brilliant. Yes, it would be useful to know exactly where on Tilbury Road you are talking about, Leslie, because a lot of it actually doesn't fall into the Havering Borough either. Drop Keith a line and we'll look into it for you. Moving on to question 7, also about roads. The drill roundabout gardens are a complete mess with the plastic lining showing through. Can something be done to tidy this?
Well, funnily enough, where I live, my road actually does go on to the drill. So I'll go and have a look at that tonight, and then I'll see if we can do something about that.
Get your garden gloves out.
Yeah, get me. Me and Guy, you should see my back lawn. Well, I don't think you can, it's overgrown.
Right, a great example. Okay, we're on to our last question already, so quickly. This next one comes from Sophie. Can the council leader advise how they will further help residents impacted by Launders Lane? Sophie's concerned that the buck keeps being passed. Surely, if the landowner won't allow people on the site to cap the area and make it safe, there must be powers of enforcement that the council can use.
Well, there are, and one of the first things I did on becoming leader was to instruct the chief executive to start the legal proceedings against the landowner. It's very, very complicated, actually, because before we can actually start proceedings against the current landowner, we have to actually track down the previous landowners and the people who committed the crime, and we have to take out action against them. And until we can demonstrate to the courts that we've done everything in our powers to do that, we think we've tracked down at least one of them, we are not able to actually take action against the existing landlord, or if we did, he would have the right of appeal. So we're going to go through the whole process. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to gaslight you. Fact is, the whole process will probably take about 2 years to complete. But as I've said to the officers, I don't care how long it takes, it has to start. And we've started the process, because this is the trouble. Previous administrations have just tried to talk their way out of the problem. They've tried to negotiate. Well, I'm afraid the time for that has finished. I mean, if the landlord wants to come forward and work with us, I welcome that, but I'm not going to be gaslit by anyone. We are going to take action. If it takes us 2 years, it takes us 2 years, but we will do everything in our power. But in parallel to that, as I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when I was in City Hall, because as many of you will know, I'm also a London Assembly member, we had an environment meeting, and funnily enough, the Environment Agency turned up to that meeting, and I made it very clear to them that we expect them to take action. And also, what was revealed during that meeting is that they do have the power to take action. But the senior chap there said, oh, well, we have to be mindful of the public purse. And I said to them, it's all right being mindful of public purse, but what about the people of Rainham and Wennington who are being polluted by this landowner? You should step in, because people are far more important, and the health of people is far more important than just money. So I will be arranging meetings with DEFRA, because he tried to deflect it onto DEFRA, and we'll see what we can do to get the Environment Agency properly involved rather than just giving us advice.
Okay, I mean, and there is precedent for that as well. They have got involved elsewhere. They have stepped in elsewhere.
Yeah, three sites in London they've done it. So, and ours is probably bigger than all 3 sites added together. So absolutely, we have evidence that they've taken action, and we want to press them into getting involved.
Okay, Sophie, hope that answers your question. Well, Keith, we've come to the end of our time already, but thank you all very much for your questions, and thanks again for joining us here on the Living in Havering podcast. Now, of course, if you have a question for Keith, or we didn't get to your question, we will put it to him next month. You can email living@havering.gov.uk. See you next month, Keith. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Living in Havering podcast.
Well, that's it for this episode. We'll be back next month for another look into life in Havering and the people that make it a great place to live, work and visit. So if you have a story you think others want to hear, you can get in touch by emailing living@havering.gov.uk. Remember to like and subscribe and follow us on social media too. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor and WhatsApp. Also, make sure to sign up to our free weekly Living in Havering email newsletter, bringing you the latest news and events from Havering and those all-important council service changes you don't want to miss. You can subscribe on our website at havering.gov.uk/newsletters. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next month. The Living in Havering podcast was presented by Ben Vaughan, the producer was Will Taylor, and the executive producer was Marcus Chrysostomou.